The backbone of any college football dynasty is with recruiting. It's changed a lot from NCAA 14, if you remember. Here on College Football 25, there are things you can do to get some really, really good players or some really deep classes, although things could be subject to change. This is a work in progress presented by EA Creator Network. That's how I'm able to play the game early. And today I'm going to show you how to recruit in College Football 25. Excuse the kind of janky setup. I haven't had power for a week. I was sweating like crazy trying to move all my stuff out of my apartment in 100 degrees in there. And I'm set up here at my cousin's, thankfully. So we'll be back to normal hopefully in a few days if I ever get power back. But let's go ahead and show you how to recruit on EA Sports College Football 25. So the reason I picked Georgia Tech, they're kind of right in the middle. They're a 3-star. They're in a pretty hot region. And I will say, recruiting is extremely specific to which school you've actually decided to choose because a lot can change. This is not a one-size-fits-all, but these tips are really going to help you figure out exactly what to look for. I've talked a lot to the developers. I've had some early access experience already as well. So I feel like the best way to start in terms of if you want the best recruits, make your head coach do recruiter. It also matters for your coordinators as well. These things can stack and help you get way better recruits. My guy here, always be recruiting. Al here, okay. All right, always, I get it. So when you first load in, this is when you want to start taking care of things. Set up recruiting board and scout prospects. You can do that instantly. Do not wait a week to do this. Do this the first week every time. And of course, as you upgrade your coach in Upgrade Coach Skills, things will get easier and easier and easier. Certain ones of these will have different things you have to do in order to unlock it. For example, we've done Recruiter, we can upgrade Recruiter, but we can't pick Program Builder yet. It takes a little bit to actually build up to that. You can hybrid it out, but there are different unlock requirements. Like for Talent Developer, you have to have 2 players drafted in the first round, spend 25 in Motivator, and spend 25 in Recruiter. You get 5 to start out, so you can upgrade pretty much as you see fit. I might recommend seeing the potential recruits before doing anything like this. Like if you find a quarterback or you're targeting a quarterback, you want to bring in a big QB, it might make sense to early on spend your 5 points to have quarterbacks take less time to fully scout. You can figure out the best one earlier. But of course, it gets easier and easier and easier as you go. And I will say, it's also incredibly important to understand your school. The biggest thing I've noticed so far with recruiting is the trade-offs from each school can vary a lot. Each recruit will have different deal breakers, and in the case of the play style deal breaker, that can absolutely kill you. Because for play style, every recruit that you're going to be going after has a different archetype, and they will have different wants based on their archetype. Defensive ends, for example, are typically going to be looking for you to get sacks. If you're a team that's not registering a lot of sacks, it could be pretty difficult to bring in some of these top-tier defensive linemen. There are different archetypes you got to check through, see what all these different guys are going to want. But some players you will not have a chance to get. Essentially, you won't. They just aren't a good fit for you. And you can see their deal breakers in the bottom right of the actual prospect list. If you want to hit triangle to search, you can narrow it down a little bit more. It's a little bit messy at times, I think, in the main screen. But if you sort by school interest, you can see, okay, which recruits already have my school as a top 3 interest. You have recommended prospects here on the R2 tab, but you can also sort by every top prospects. You can sort by particular states. You can sort by the star rating. And the big one for me is sorting by your pipeline. The pipeline can be customized with your coach when you come in, but also as you recruit, if you go after certain regions more than others, you can have different pipeline ratings that will make it easier and easier to recruit those specific regions. And you can go after a 5-star if you're Kennesaw State or Georgia Tech or whomever, right? You can go after the 5 stars. You're not going to land a lot of them. You might get one, and then because you've allocated so many resources going after the biggest fish you can possibly find in the pond, your class is going to be incredibly shallow because you have not been able to spend the necessary resources needed to bring in everybody else. So if you're going after 5 stars as a 1-star school, you might be able to land one. It's not impossible, but are you going to get a class more than 7 or 8 deep? Absolutely not. Certainly not 5 stars unless maybe you're in Ohio State or a big-time school. There are a million different examples, Georgia, right? But you typically are going to want to find the diamonds in the rough. They're going to be easier to recruit, but can have overalls that outweigh some of the 4 and 5 stars. So I'm looking for a quarterback. I think it's easier if it's a pipeline state, of course, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And there are going to be recruits that aren't interested in you out of the gate. Doesn't seem like it's going to be a great fit. They're not a pipeline state, yet for some reason you are able to actually bring those guys in. It is possible. It is doable. A lot of these guys are going to have deal breakers. And if you win, say LaMichael Devine here, his deal breakers that we're not a championship contender, but it is close. If we went on a win streak, that grade will change from week to week. So that's not someone that you necessarily cannot go after, just not right now. If you start winning, improve your championship contending abilities, he will now at least let you recruit him. Again, it is going to be easier for the pipeline guys, and it is going to be easier for the guys that already have an interest in you, but you are not limited to just the players with interest. Currently, I'll have a set number of recruiting hours shown in the top right. That can change as you upgrade your coordinators and your head coach, but we'll take a look. Scouting is going to be the backbone for finding out who is actually good. Now, you're not going to get an overall grade like you used to, but you are going to get individual attribute grades, which you can use to figure out how good they actually are. Obviously, if you're looking for a quarterback, you're looking for throw power, but here at the college level especially, you're looking for speed and accuracy. And when you do the first scouting, sometimes you will get the numbers. Accuracy is already looking pretty good. Good throw power at 92, but you will see a range until they're fully scouted. And that range, the number is going to be somewhere in between there on a sliding scale of 100. So speed looks like it's closer to 90. Maybe it's 88 speed. Maybe it's 91 speed. And also, the 5 stars, even though they can be the same overall as 3 stars, the 5 stars most often are going to have better abilities, especially mental abilities, compared to the lower tier prospects I've found. But Enrique Boone, clearly going to be good. 5-star, top 3 player in the nation. Big time arm, good accuracy, big time speed, great abilities. What you're going to want to do is then offer a scholarship. Now, some of these players will be heavily recruited by top schools, and you're just going to fall out of the race if they have more resources than you do. Some players are going to be good, and teams just are not going to go after them quite as hard. That's your opportunity to jump in and get some underappreciated players that can end up being superstar players for your program. And as you can see here, there are a lot of quarterbacks and athletes, which they're going to be quarterbacks, that have pretty good arms, 90-plus throw power, and excellent speed in the 90s. This is a mobile quarterback game. That is a lot of college football. Of course, you can differentiate some of these players based on how interested they're going to be in you, and also their abilities. You can decide which one you want more than somebody else. I haven't had enough time on the game to know, okay, the magician ability is something I really, really like, but basically, the more abilities, the better, and especially the mental abilities. Road dogs are a really good one because they're less rattled on the road. That's important here in College Football 25. And occasionally you'll find a gem. This is a 4-star, so it's not like he's expected to be very bad, but 94 throw power, 86 speed, pretty good accuracy as well. He is, in terms of his actual overall and talent, better than his rating. This might be a 5-star type talent, and he's not even listed as a top 200 player in the nation. Could be an easier player for you to get. And you can also find busts, guys that maybe aren't quite as good as their rating would suggest. However, this could be a potential bug because Ty Tobias looks unbelievable. Very good arm, incredible accuracy, and electric speed. This is somebody I'd probably just go after anyway. And of course, you can see in the bottom right, you can't actually find out their development trait yet unless you purchase the Mind Reader ability in the Strategist Coach archetype. Once you find guys that you like, you can offer scholarships. And then even though it says you only have 35, be careful. It's 35 guys that actually end up committing to your school. It's not just 35 scholarships. You offer 35. That's it. You're done. You can't offer anymore. You just go ahead and basically take the player off your board. If they commit elsewhere, you have a scholarship offer that opens up. But this is something that week to week, you're going to have to follow and focus on because you're constantly going to be, in my opinion, wanting to take players off your recruiting board that either you don't want or you're not going to be able to get. Take them off the board and add somebody else. Week to week, there are going to be plenty of prospects that are being under-recruited. And again, there are going to be some gems. There are going to be some diamonds in the rough. You constantly have to be looking for those players to add in and increase the depth of your class. It isn't just add 35 at the start. You'll get all of them and you're good to go. It's going to be a grind of every single week. You got to look into taking players on and off your board in order to build the best class possible. But such is the actual recruiting road in college football. When you're adding your classes, make sure to get a diverse group of positions. Even though I'm doing this just for the video to show you, don't go after 15 quarterbacks. Maybe look for 2 or 3 that you like and then narrow it down to 1 or 2. Okay, week 2, we can start to see some of the schools that are actually offering. It's going to be tough if you're a Georgia Tech to compete with a Clemson and an Alabama. All these top tier schools, 5-star, 4-star type programs that have offered, especially with a heavy pipeline already, as you can see with the P tier there on the right side of the school's offers and visits. It's going to be tough. Some of these players, it is just wise to give up on. If you're Georgia Tech, you're probably not going to get every 5-star you go after. Maybe not even any of them. But that also doesn't mean that you just have to not recruit anybody that a top school is going after. It's important to monitor how many resources the schools are throwing at these guys. You can try to stay in the race, right? And for me, my biggest thing is try to win the recruitment as soon as possible. That's the name of the game. So sending the house, I feel like, is a pretty good way to do that. Once you get to the pitch section where you can soft sell and hard sell and also sway, this is not available until the recruit has narrowed down his top 5 schools, but you want to be in the race. So a lot of the times I like to send the house. I think that's a good way to do it. But if you need to save on points a little bit, you could do contact friends and family. You could even add something else. Add DM the player on top of that. So you're spending 35 points and getting a decent amount of what sending the house would be. Now, when it says influence gain, this is 4 for 25. This is 2 for 10. If you look at add action and send the house, that's 5 for 50. Now, do those points stack? Does it matter? I honestly think that for 4, 25 points might be more worth it depending on the player that you're going after. If they're a legit top 5-star in the nation, probably don't mess around. Send the full 50. You really want that guy. But for a lot of these guys, it's really not a bad idea to do DM the player for 10, friends and family for 25. You could even add on search social media. But the thing you're going to want to do is see where you are. You're going to want to do something after offering a scholarship. Do not let it just sit. See where you are. See if you have a legitimate chance based on how the schools are either getting out to a lead or they aren't. You can see I would say the brighter colored bar for Georgia, right? Well, the darker colored bar is the progress they gained in the last week. So because UNC and Georgia have offered scholarships, they have gained ground on FSU and Florida and Clemson who have not. So offering scholarships and then putting points in is critical. And I will say this, again, as you upgrade your coach, it gets easier and easier. In the top right, above where it says send the house and the description on the far right, you can see 35 out of 50. I've DM'd the player. I slid in there. I talked to friends and family. Good order to do those things in. And we can even search and stalk them on social media. Why not? But you can extend that 50 to 65, and then you can really start to stack some of these things. And you'll get updates every week about who has reached their top 8 or top 5. It's kind of annoying how it cycles back and forces you to go to the school update, but that also is important. You don't want to miss it. But you can see some of these guys just not really going to be considering us. That's just how that goes. And you will get locked out. It is unavoidable. Take them off your board, head back to the prospect list. And this is where you want to comb back through, and you don't even have to sort by recommended. Again, you can look at some of the top players in the entire nation. Some of them will not want to go to your school because of a certain deal breaker. A lot of the 5 stars have big time deal breakers. If you're a lower tier school, it's going to be really difficult to overcome that. But here's a great example of the exact type of player that I'm talking about. Kiari Kalu here is a top 20 player in the nation. He is not in a pipeline state. He's out there in Arkansas, right? He, in the bottom right, does not have offers. So even though he's being recruited by the Blue Bloods, Florida, Texas, LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, this is a gettable recruit because he's being under-recruited. That's where you step in and take advantage. And I'll tell you, this type of thing may not last forever. He will get offers from other schools. You want to get in as soon as possible and try to wrap this commitment up. Do not let some of these top-tier schools get a chance to get back in the race. But that's the type of player that you want to find. Even just Miami going after this guy, the only school that's offered on him so far, you can at least add them to your board, see if there's a chance that they'll decide to commit to you. Again, a lot of these are going to be long shots, but they are worth pursuing. And as I said before, I'll say it again, do not sleep on the 2 and 3 stars that can be way better than their star rating. You will find gems. Gems are the biggest difference in a good class and a bad class. It's all about adding a bunch of players to your recruiting boards, scouting them, seeing where the actual value is. Do we want to pay a 4-star price for a fringe 3-star player? Not really. Off the board. And just like that, a 3-star defensive tackle, not even ranked near the top 500 with 86 strength, 84 finesse moves, a speed rush defensive tackle, that could be somebody that you're really interested in. Alabaster, Alabama is a pipeline. This is going to be somebody we have a pretty good shot to get with currently no offers from anybody, let alone a top tier school. And another gem, I'm telling you, the 3 stars can be a really, really good way to do it. And even though Vanderbilt and Troy have offered, it's not really going to stop us, right? Jermaine Blizzard, all right. As you play, as you win, you're going to get upgrades. It's important to monitor in the top right when you have those points. Spend those points. Go upgrade your coach skills. And as you can see on this 5-star Denzel friend here from Alabama, we're gaining a similar amount week over week compared to Clemson, Alabama, Mississippi State. Now, is it good for us in the long run to continue to throw all our resources into him? Maybe, maybe not. But if the player's good enough, it's worth trying to get into that top 5. And then once you do, that's where making that pitch and finding out what their actual interests are, that's where that can make a huge difference. Another gem 3-star. Now, it's important to see their actual individual ratings as well and not just take the gem or the bust as, you know, the end-all be-all. But again, a lot of this is just about looking at these different players. This one doesn't look especially fast, so maybe I shouldn't have been too interested. Coco Boudreaux, but, you know, you got to fill out a roster too. It's just 5 points to offer a scholarship. If they're a player that can make your roster, a lot of times it's like, why not? And you can see with Kalu here, because he has no offers from anybody, because he's not really truly being recruited by these other schools, we can gain a lot. Now, because we just added him to our board, we had no progress bar already. So all of that is gained in the last week. That's why, again, it's important to add guys, take guys off your board, really look and look and look every week for players that are going to help you win. And oftentimes, as I keep saying, those are guys that are not being recruited as much as, you know, some of the top, 5-star guys in the nation, but you can find 5 stars that are still also not being recruited a ton. Denzel Friend has narrowed it down into his top 5, which means we now have soft sell, hard sell, and sway available. Now, what's the difference? Why should you use one over the other? Well, it gives you a description here on the right side. Soft sell awards a moderate amount of influence when choosing the correct ideal pitch with a lower penalty for being wrong. Best when you have some idea of what the recruit wants from your school. Hard sell, of course, awards the most influence when choosing the correct ideal pitch, but has the largest penalty when wrong. It is kind of like a last-ditch effort, I would say, but it can be really good because it's going to tell you how hard it is. And of course, you're going to have to take away send the house in order to add the sway, but that's worth doing in my opinion. But if you add, the hard sell here, the soft sell, you go in here and you see what their interests are. Now, it's important that the ones that they don't care about with the X, those do not matter, right? So if he's interested in playing, right, and proximity to home, I might choose something with proximity to home and then either 2 unknowns or 2 X's ideally. Like if I only have a couple things that actually fit what he's interested in, because this is super close to home, we could totally do proximity to home, and then conference prestige he doesn't care about. Championship contender we're not really sure about, but because playing time has A+, and we're getting the A proximity to home, plus playing style might not even matter, we're for sure going to go time to get to work, and you can see instantly what actually happens as a result of that, and you can see we gained 4 points of influence on Denzel Friend. Scheduling the visit takes 40 recruiting hours overall, but not out of your total 50 or 60 in the top right for the player. Only of your total recruiting hours. So scheduling visits is important. Of course, you typically do want to schedule it against an opponent if you're playing, because with a win, you can really gain a ton of favor. Now, you do still get a bonus for the player going on a visit, so you can schedule on buys if you need to, but you don't get any type of game boost. But you do get a boost overall, and then you sell them on whatever their interest is in. He likes playing time. We'll only have to choose 1. That's easy. We'll get 3 influence points for free, and we might be able to actually make a move on this 5-star, as we'll add DM the player to the list as well. You know, trying to max out, everything that we can actually do. Completely go all in on this player. We can catch up and even exceed Clemson. And it should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway, use all of your recruiting points every week, whether you're scouting new players or seeing who's actually good, or putting points into players that you want. Use all of your recruiting hours. Again, that seems obvious, but do not leave any. There's no reason to. We really lost to an FCS school. All right, simulation is going great. Now, sometimes it's not always going to say they're a gem. This is why you have to use your eyes. Cam Schaefer is a 3-star, not ranked in the top 700, not ranked in the top 50 of all quarterbacks. He has 96 speed, 94 acceleration, 94 throw power. Awareness is low, but the accuracy is already quite good. This is a player you definitely want to go after, and when they don't have big-time offers from anybody else, this is a guy you can steal to be a real, true difference maker. You got to go all out when you see players like that. And you can continue to pitch and sway these guys, and it is going to be worth it if you can find the actual correct fit. He doesn't care about brand exposure or pro potential, which means the only one factoring in here is playing time. That's what we're going to sell him on, and it's going to give us a pretty good result. Now, of course, you will get a bigger boost if you have all 3 that fit, but you can't always find that with some of the smaller tier schools. But as I keep saying, keep finding players that are being under-recruited. They do not have offers. Go after those guys. That can really establish the depth of your class. All it takes sometimes is a scholarship offer. That's it. But it's also important to know when to drop out and recoup some of your points so you're not wasting 35 every week on a player you're never going to get. We're just not going to be able to compete with Georgia here. There's just no way. And as I said, this is the type of thing that can happen. You can stay in the race, but ultimately, the big schools can still beat you very easily. That's why it's important to find guys that are being under-recruited. Kieri Kalu here, still, no offers from any of the 5-stars or like tier programs. They're recruiting him, but they haven't offered. This is where we take advantage, and you can see, all right, let's either sell him on something, sway potentially if they're going a different direction, and definitely get that visit scheduled. And this can be a challenge with it. Miami comes out of nowhere, and a guy that you've been going after the entire time suddenly probably not looking so good. But get those visits scheduled. It's pretty easy. Make sure to align whatever their interests are with what you're selling them. LSU's trying to make a run at Clyde Bynes. We're trying to end this as quickly as possible. We got to hopefully get a win here over Notre Dame, although I highly doubt it. But he wants to be close to home a little bit, so that's probably our best bet. Doesn't really seem to have too much interest. We could like take a gamble and sell on conference prestige, but if he doesn't care about that, which is a possibility, we're wasting our time. But recruiting is a marathon, not a sprint. If you keep doing everything I'm telling you to, eventually the commits are going to start rolling in. And there we go, Clyde Bynes. Haven't really even talked about him too much in this video, but a 4-star wide receiver officially committed. And once they're committed, they're locked in. There's another one, a linebacker. And he, again, a lot better than his 3-star rating. Can they decommit? If a deal breaker comes into play, they actually can, but you probably are going to be fine. And there's another one, quarterback Cam Schaefer. As I said, get these guys in on visits, boost them up, start winning some recruits. That's 3 there all in the same week. Fernando DiNapoli, unfortunately, the defensive tackle, not going to be one of them. But we know we're probably going to end up getting a 5-star running back. But again, get these visits scheduled as soon as you possibly can and get these guys committed as soon as possible because it frees up so many recruiting hours or recruiting points, and you can actually win some of these recruitments. And because we're going after the running back, what I did is I added more points onto the running back. Make it a little bit easier to go ahead and get him to commit. Early on, especially when you're going after these players, it's important to align your coach points or your upgradable points for your coach with actually who you're going after. Why would you worry about, receiver recruiting if you're not really going after any receivers and you're really focusing on some good running backs, for example? But even though we're already very solidly in the lead on Kiari Kalu, he is a 5-star recruit. We just upgraded it from 50 to 65 points via our coach upgrades. I'm going all out. The sooner we can get him to commit, the sooner we get all these points back, plus a huge actual commit to our team. It would be very tempting to take those recruiting points, those recruiting hours off Kiari Kalu because he's so close to committing, but I'm telling you, do not take your foot off the gas pedal. You don't want to risk any of these schools coming out of nowhere to steal him away. Get that commit, worry about somebody else after. My favorite are the players to go after with proximity to home, and just recruit the good underrated players from your region. If you can guarantee an A+ visit, it's going to be very helpful. He's from Georgia. Georgia is what that says. From definitely a town in there. There's Valdosta, a little bit more normal of a name. There are only 5 points left. But just, again, really use all your points. Right now we only have 16 targets. Just for the sake of the video, only showing you, how to manage it with a few different players. But what you can do is go in, look at some of these recommended guys, offer some scholarships, and they're going to be players that are barely being recruited. 1s and 2 stars can be good to at least fill out your program. Jose Iglesias, the middle infielder in professional baseball, has committed. Niles Pitts has committed. And because we're getting all of these commitments, obviously what does that do? It frees up more points to go after more players. That's the name of the game. Get players to commit and then go after new ones. You can find gem 2 stars. You can find 2 stars, 1 stars that can make your team, can be good. Just got to know what you're looking for. And there he is. 5-star Kiari Kalu, running back, has committed to Georgia Tech. Also got 3-star Steve Morton as well. I'm beating a dead horse if I continue to say what I've been telling you. And as you'll see here, the soft sell can be really, and even the hard sell too, obviously, but the soft sell especially can be really good bang for your buck because you can get 4 points of interest for only 20 if it aligns correctly, and you can pretty much make sure that it does. And then we just got 4 points of interest on Glenn McCollum. You can, already be talking to the friends and family and then add a soft sell on top of that, get even more points sometimes. There's an extra 4. We found, a pretty good match. Dude, what a day for Avery Boyd, the senior wide receiver. 9 for 173 and 4 touchdowns. We got to recruit that guy again. He's a senior. We need him back. Oh, this is not a good game. But as you'll see, your class really starts to come together. It's just rinsing and repeating to find new players that are going to fit and that are going to help you out. So there's not a week you should take off, in my opinion. Just keep working to get commits. You'll get those hours replaced when they do commit, and keep trying to find the players that are not being recruited as much as they should be. Use your pipelines. Those should be your biggest takeaways. Now, we finished 2-10. But we were able to sign a pretty good class of some 3 stars, some 3 stars that looked like 4 stars, some 4 stars, a 5-star. Look at Cam Schaefer here from Athens, Georgia. Scouting, 94 throw power, 96 speed. That doesn't really look like a 3-star to me. He's unbelievable. And then for the transfer portal, it works the same way. It's the same idea as recruiting with the actual high school players. Just don't have 35 targets on your board, and you can add up to 35 as Caleb Downs and Isaiah Bond are back in the portal. And you recruit them just as you would any other recruit. You get 900 hours to work with when you get to the transfer portal period. Obviously, if you want Caleb Downs, it's going to be difficult. get him in on a visit, find something that makes sense here, but you can try to send the house. You can try to get some of these top players. It's going to be difficult on some of them, but you know, if you go all out, you got a chance to land some of them out of the portal for sure. Make sure to get those scholarships in. Make sure to use all your hours on the players that you actually want out of the portal. The portal can help finish your class. Sometimes it'll work well. Sometimes it will not. Again, if you're Georgia Tech, it's going to be tough to beat out Georgia for a player they want just as bad as you do. And of course, you can continue to recruit high school players even in the transfer portal / recruiting phase, obviously. So brought in Neil Schiller. It's just, I don't know why we can't scout him anymore. But that's going to do it. Hopefully you guys get the idea. I know this is probably too long, but I wanted to be thorough, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.